Hello, Two Brain World. I am Jay Cohen, gym owner extraordinaire, here to talk to you about how to live a rich life as a gym owner. And today we're going to talk about podcasts. I recently rolled our podcast out for Locomotion Fitness. Actually, I should say I re-released it. So do not make the same mistakes I did. That's the reason I'm doing this video for you. First thing, if you choose to do a podcast, you need to make a commitment here. Decide, I'm gonna do this for 3 months, 6 months, I'm gonna do it weekly, bi-weekly. You need to be consistent. I had like 6 or 7 episodes come out, release dates were all over the place, we didn't nail down format, didn't have a solid intro and outro, and surprise, surprise, it never took hold. We would get like 100 listeners to each episode, which didn't seem worth it for us. So, this time around, we're doing things the right way, and I just want to talk to you about how to podcast, eliminate some fears, talk to you about some common issues, some gear, stuff like that. So first thing, remember, content is king. You need to publish a lot, and a podcast is just a great way to get a whole bunch of different pieces of content, right? You've got the actual podcast that you've got on audio that we can release on a platform like Anchor, right? That's what we're going to do. And Anchor, which is just anchor.fm, puts it up on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, like a ton of the big platforms. You just upload it one time and it publishes it out to all of those places. So we've got the main podcast, then film it, right? Use your phone as you're recording the podcast, film that, and then you can chop up minute pieces here and there of the good chunks and use that video on Instagram or on Facebook. Another option here, you can make what they call an audiogram, which I'm sure you've seen. It's just like the sound wave in the background. If you don't want to film video, you could always do that to get something up on Instagram as well. But just think you put the video up on YouTube as the whole podcast. Like you could get 10, maybe even 20 pieces of content out of 1 hour-long podcast. So that's the reason we decided to get back into this game. Next thing I wanted to think through was format. How did I want this to go? Who am I featuring? Do I want it to be a conversation? Am I just writing something and I'm just having a conversation with myself? And for us, what we decided is we wanted to sort of have a few different styles of episode. And I think you can do this multiple ways, right? You can have the same 2 people that do it all the time. You could have the same person that interviews various people. Ultimately, for us, we knew we wanted to highlight some things that were going on at the gym. So that would be sort of podcasts more focused on members. We wanted to, for the greater Charleston community, give a resource around health and wellness and nutrition with a Charleston focus. So we've got some Charleston experts that'll come in and we'll talk to. And then we're gonna have conversations with our coaches about a strength component or programming or whatever, just to show off their expertise and get our members to know them a little bit more. So think about what you want your format to be. Make sure you have a plan, stick to that plan. And I think as long as you do that and you're not just all over the map all the time and there's some level of consistency, I think you'll be good to go. Next up is topics. For me, the easiest way to come up with topics is to pay attention to what people are asking me. So people constantly ask me questions about health, fitness, business, all sorts of different stuff. And I keep a note a lot of times on my phone, sometimes in my head, about what people are asking. And that then gives me fodder for what I want to do a podcast on. So for example, last week, I did a video about hiring a new head coach. Well, I wanted to have that head coach on because I got a bunch of questions about who he was and what he's going to do and that sort of thing. So we just filmed a podcast around that. Another example, we've got an adaptive program that we're launching on Saturday. I have our coach coming in literally in 5 minutes, and we're going to shoot that adaptive podcast to get the word out to the community. Perhaps, like I said, it's a member comes to you and is like, man, I feel like my shoulders are tight all the time. What can I do? just off the top of my head, let's go into talking about shoulder mobility, talking about recovery protocols, the benefits of cold or hot, right? Contrast therapy stuff. Like there's tons of different places that you could take that. So write down a list of topics. If you can't think of any, write down questions that people ask you, keep that on a sheet somewhere, and you've got a steady go-to flow of fodder for you to talk about on your podcast. Next up, just some of the detail stuff here. Make sure, don't do what I did, film or record a consistent intro or outro. You're gonna have to go and get some music for this. You can go Creative Commons, which would be free. Just make sure you check out all of the trademarking and IP stuff to make sure you're not gonna get in any trouble. Or you could go to a service out there like I did, and I'm gonna draw a blank on what the name of it is, but basically it's the audio equivalent of Shutterstock. I think I paid $50 for the rights to a song that I really liked, and we chopped that into our intro and outro. I did a voiceover just about broad and general. This is what our podcast is going to be. That will then be how we start and end each of our podcasts. I'm fortunate enough to have a team that does our media. And so I also had them do a video intro and outro for the video portions that we're gonna put up on YouTube. Like I said, we're gonna use these all over the place. So if you have the ability to do that yourself or somebody to do it for you, consider doing a video intro and outro as well. Next up, you're gonna need some cover art. So the way that I did this is I had my designers do 6 different cover, sort of album covers, if you will. I went to my social media and I just put it to a poll. What do you guys like best? And I got down to 2. I took those 2, I made some edits that I wanted, and then I redid another vote and got all of the information from a lot of different types of people, and I was able to pick a winner that way. So that cover art's important, right? It's a thumbnail. That's the thing that a lot of times is gonna draw people to click or not. So really spend some time on what you want that cover art to look like. Next up, we already talked about publishing, but I encourage you to get it on as many platforms as is humanly possible, across the board. Audio, video, doesn't matter. Publish, publish, publish. As far as gear goes, I have a very simple setup. You might be able to see it behind me on my desk. I've got a microphone that is desk mounted. I just set that microphone in the center, and honestly, it's not ideal. I should have 2 different mics for me and my guest, and I will. I'm again, sort of just getting this going again, but it's good enough. I put that mic in the middle. I make sure that there's a decent signal coming through. I record that audio through my computer as I record my video through the phone. I send all of those assets to my editor, and they're able to cut it together for me and get it published in all of those different places. So you're really just gonna need a camera. You're gonna need a microphone. Do not just record the audio through your camera. Now, what you could do is get something like this, right? Just this nice, easy lapel mic. I think I paid like $25 for this thing on Amazon. Or the setup that I just got about $1,000 setup, which consists of, it's called the Rodecaster Pro, which is like a mixer. It's got 2 different microphones. It's got all the memory cards that you need. So if you're looking for like a decent intermediate setup, this is something that you tested, you know you're in on, or it's a passion of yours, I would expect to spend about $1,000 for like an intermediate, pretty nice setup. Certainly you could spend a lot more money on podcast stuff than that, but I think that's a pretty nice zone to start. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful on the podcast front. If you have any questions, just put them down there in the comments and we will do our best to get you an answer. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss anything coming from us. I am Jay Cohen. I cannot wait to see you around the 2Brain world. I'm telling you, take action on this stuff and it will change your life. See you next time.